Let there be light, and welcome to Living Essence. I am Siddhantarananda, bringing to you today the understanding of what must be dropped, what must be addressed and faced if you're ever to pass the experience of depression, anxiety, sadness, trauma. So these things are a part of our life, but it's certainly not who you are. Who you are is infinite. In fact, you're not a who as much as you are what you are. As in, you're not a what, you're not a thing, you are no thing. Consciousness, it is simply consciousness. And this is where we get the understanding in the Bible where God said, I am that I am. And it kind of makes sense. You can't explain God because God cannot be put into a construct or confined down. And this is what happens to us in life. We get confined. You think about the things that we do in life, such as contracts. A contract causes you to contract, to limit yourself, to create boundaries and borders in which you cannot go outside of. So we do this all the time, and society is teaching us, signing contracts and making these agreements with people cause a contraction. So you cannot, it's a squeezing in, it's keeping you confined. And this, like anything, if you think about it, someone who is claustrophobic feels an anxiety. You feel an anxiety because you feel like the walls are closing in on you. And so it makes sense that when you sign a contract, for some people they're signing a contract or they enter into a contract which is an agreement or a promise to someone to build an expectation. They say, hey, I promise I'll do this. They go into a contract and it confines you and contracts you. And some people will find themselves signing a contract and sweating bricks. And this is not an unusual thing because your nervous system and your subconscious mind literally knows that what you're doing is you're confining yourself. And you as a soul, you that is what you are, not a thing, but no thing, you are not a confinement. And so when you sign a contract, enter an agreement, and go into a form of conditioning, then you do create a feeling of claustrophobia, of contraction. And then what comes from that is when, like an animal being trapped, comes anxiety. And anxiety is worry about the future, and the future is a projection of the past. So anxiety is in fact the very close cousin of depression. Even though they find themselves in different areas of our being, of our psyche, depression being regret of the past and anxiety being a concern or fear of the future, they come from the very same root, which is a contraction, which is, to be into a contract, to confine yourself and to feel trapped, to feel stuck. Now, how does this happen? Well, this happens through conditioning. And this is the step that we must take in order to move past anxiety and depression, sadness and trauma. We must decondition ourselves. Deconditioning is the very process that must take place in order for you to move past the feelings and experience of anxiety and depression. To decondition yourself is to drop away what has been done to you. You see, we come into this world, you think about a baby, you come into the world and before you know it, the world has its hands on you. Before you know it, you're being inoculated. Before you know it, you're being taught and told how to see, instead of just simply seeing for the sake of seeing. You see, a baby sees what it sees. But when you become conditioned, you see a thing. So you see a bird, you see a ball, you see the room. And what that does is creates a separation within you. And if you really take that separation on board, then what that does is, again, it confines you, it contracts you, causes you to contract. So you look at anyone that begins to suffer anxiety, they begin to contract. It's very rare to see someone that's suffering anxiety to spread out wide, to expand. You see, when you go into contraction, you're squashing down, you're becoming smaller, you're creating that phobia around being in a confined space, claustrophobia. And so this is the feeling that people go through. And for anyone that's watching this now that suffers from the experience of anxiety, and I say that you suffer from the experience of anxiety because you are not anxiety and you do not have it. It is an experience. But anyone that has the experience of anxiety knows how it feels, that contraction, that confining of the walls, the bringing yourself in. So whenever you go into a contract, and we do this in humanity all the time, we go into marriage, we get married, it's a contract. So you say, I promise I'm going to do this, this, and this. Literally what you're saying is I'm going to confine myself. And this is the understanding that we go into this relationship with, of confining. So the marriage does not expand your horizon, not under the human construct of marriage, as much as it confines you. And so we look at people at the altar when they're about to get married, and some people get cold feet and boom, they're out of there. Why? Because it's a natural instinct to realize I'm being confined. And then the natural animalistic instinct kicks in and they flee, they're out of there. It's not that they don't love the person, it's that their natural instinct understands being confined is not natural. So all anxiety is when a feeling of that unnatural habitat is happening, the unnatural environment, the unnatural expectation upon you. You see, we're not being chased by animals these days, such as our Neolithic counterparts, our Neolithic ancestors. We trap ourselves by our words. We trap ourselves by our thoughts. And we trap ourselves by our actions. When you look at it, love is natural. To love is natural. It's in nature. We see that animals love. There is a love, and what it is, it's a connection that expands. It expands life. You don't see animals getting married and locking themselves into a promise that builds an expectation. They simply function naturally. So to truly marry your beloved, you should not feel that you need to write a contract, because literally what you're saying is this needs to be put in paper so we can confine each other into an ownership that you don't expand out in other directions. You see, because when you're set free, then you're truly free to choose. But when you're confined, there's no choice. And when there's no choice, along comes anxiety. So what are the things? Ask yourself the question, what are the things that are making you feel contracted, that make it feel like the walls are closing in on you? Because the natural thing for us to do is expand. We were born, we grow. And then we get past the physical growth and we step up into a spiritual, psychological, emotional growth. But society would clamp you down and confine you. It pulls you into contracts, such as work. You begin working, you sign a contract. Again, you're contracted, confined, anxiety. You get yourself a mortgage, you sign another contract. You feel confined, contracted, anxiety. Can you see how society, not the human biology, causes anxiety? Because we're not being chased by animals such as our Neolithic ancestors. We are simply creating our own prisons with this. By our own minds, we are creating the feeling that we are being trapped. So the way past anxiety and depression is to decondition yourself. We hear about the words that love is unconditional. And here's the thing. You are love. As it says, God is love. You are love because you are an expression of God. So, to bring yourself out of the confinement of the sociological structures that are conditioning you, you must come back to love. And love is natural and unfolds in the moment. It's not confined, it's always expanding. So some of the things that you can do to decondition is to simply hold your biology wide and feel expansive. Allow yourself to feel expansive. Expand your energy. Get past the idea. Drop all your thoughts of what you need to do, what must be done, and take on board what I'm sharing here. Bringing it into your understanding that there's nothing you need to run from, that these social structures are there just to keep you trapped, but there's no one chasing you down. And don't get so identified with the body that you feel you are the body. You can rest at ease. You are not the body, you have a body. So allow your energy, stand strong. Allow your energy to be firmly placed on the ground. Feel the earth and expand. Allow your energy to expand. And when you feel that expansion, realize and see that you expand past the body. You see, the truth of the matter is you're always expanding past the body, because even looking at me now, you're taking in photons reflected off surfaces. You're taking in audible sound. You're taking in a vibration into the ears that are being translated into sound. So you are an expansive being. As I said in the last video, you are here to sense. So your senses are not here simply just to protect the body. They are here for your learning. Don't take it so seriously. We live in phenomenally safe and very secure times. Never have we lived so long, and yet, in a way, when you look at society's structure, we live so long, but never have we lived so unwell. Healing is the most important part. And to bring yourself to that place where you must drop your conditioning, to decondition, work with someone that has your well-being at heart, such as a shaman, a healer, a guru, someone that works with energy, because that is what you are. Contact me. Get in contact with us. Let's work together one-to-one. Work with someone that truly wants to help you expand, because when you become energy that's expanding, you no longer feel the contraction. Anxiety naturally goes on its own. I'm sending you all so much love, and let there be light.